Hello everybody and welcome on today's video. Today is the day I've been looking forward to because I started taking cuttings from these ivy plants a few years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago. They've grown very well and I intend to fuse them together now to make a cascading tree. Therefore I have a little piece of foam because I want to guide the first thick pieces along this foam trunk. Notice that I want the trunk to go in direction left or right, not straight, because well, a cascade is logically a tree that has fallen over. So a cascade that starts straight does not make much sense to me. So let's have a look at the plants we're going to use. And let's start immediately. So in this big pot that stayed outside winter and summer, so I know that this can survive in the winter too, I have these ivies, and there are also wild seedlings. I think these are some kinds of willow, which I will get out, and I prepared a bucket full of water to plant them in, because maybe I can do something with them later. Anyway, I'm not going to throw them away. That wouldn't be very kind. I have also a little pot where I planted 2 of these guys, so they might come in handy. And then we have, of course, a big flower pot that is basically, well, not really a bonsai pot, but I drilled a hole in it, and it's going to be a big container to put everything in. So first of all, everything needs to get out of this pot. I'm not too sure about how this is going to present itself, and well, it's just going to be a question of getting them loose. This looks like this is a birch. Yeah, well, I'll plant them somewhere. This is one of these little ivy trees, so I'm not gonna remove all the soil. I'm just gonna sort it out first and then remove all the soil. Yeah, there's lots of seedlings here. Well, I'll have to find a way to give them a chance to survive. Okay, so I'm gonna get all these little trees out, wash the roots, and then I will be back. Okay, so now all the trees are safe and well in the bucket full of water. Some are completely sunk because they are small, but I can still see where they are, so that's good. So to start this thing, I made a very long raffia string. I tied a few together. I have a ugly rusty paper clip here, and the plan is that it's continues to rust, so it doesn't matter, it will disappear, and I'm going to push it through my foam piece so that my raffia is well anchored. Okay, so now it's going to be a question of starting with the biggest ones, I think, and try to guide them over and under the piece of foam. And why did I take regular raffia this time? Well, because I intend to do this one at the time, one tree at the time. I'm going to remove the leaves, especially at the bottom, so that I can see what I'm doing. There's no need to push it against this foam while I'm doing this, of course. Maybe I think it's a good idea to remove the lower leaves on every tree before I do this, because it might get complicated otherwise. Well, basically, for the cascade, I'd like to have, of course, a cascading part, like so, but I also like to have what they call an informal upright tree on the top. So I'm going to try to save some branches for the top. But first of all, now I'm going to get off the leaves that are disturbing me. So the leaves are removed now, and I'm going to start getting the little trees on the trunk. So of course you do not have to use a piece of foam if you want to do that. You can very well just bundle the trees, which will of course result in a much smaller trunk, but in time it will probably get a whole lot bigger. So this is why I use natural raffia. So now I can make a twist, and afterwards I think I will have to use the grafting tape, synthetic raffia, I don't know, to give it a little more tension. I think it is a good idea to put a long one in the inner curve, if you see what I mean, because this is otherwise a part that would not have enough light, and that could die off. So because it is long now, it will probably get the light it needs. So it's going to be just not difficult, but a little tricky to get all these things where I want them to be, well, almost where I want them to be, because there's no such thing as instant bonsai. You can get close sometimes. Okay, so I have one at the back here, one at the inside, so that's good. So now one left and one right. This one has a little branch here, so I'm going to put it there. And of course try to keep the position of the roots in consideration, like so. So I did not see videos on these things, and never saw someone do something like that, which is a shame, because could have helped. So I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but well, I think distributing what you have is a good idea. Yeah, this is exactly the opposite. You see, I have a trunk here. So you start with one, and then you have two, and then you make four, and then one in the middle, and probably we will get to a point where it closes quite well. And every time I'm going to try to go back to the top of the foam piece, without crushing too much leaves. Like so. Okay, so now I have 4, and 4 should become 8. So this one can come here. And the more you add, of course, the bigger the problem is becoming. But I'm still controlling it. Thank you. It's gonna be okay. Like that. Okay, so well, you get the point. I'm just going to add all these little trees and then try to fill up the holes as much as possible. So I'll be back when this is done. Okay, I got them all together now, and I'm going to use the rest of the raffia just to surround the base, but always with every turn trying to go a little lower, you see, so not here but here. And this way I can probably flatten the root base a little more. And then of course comes the horrible problem of the ending of the raffia. But since I have to use synthetic raffia also, it doesn't matter too much this time. So now I'm going to put this tree in a pot. Okay, the tree has been potted up now. Gave it a good watering. That's why it's now in this little scale here, because otherwise it's gonna drip all over the table and me, and I do not want that. So maybe in order to do a little more, just I could try to sort these branches out and try to give them a better position. And why should I do that? Because if the trunks are where I want them to be, I can make sure that that every little tree gets enough light and that it would be beneficial for the tree. So I will probably have to cut off a little more of these leaves, but as you know, ivy, well, they take leaf pruning very well. So as long as I leave a few leaves on every plant, it's gonna be no problem at all. So I'm going to clean this up a little so that I have a better view on the trunk line. So I think now I've cleared most of the branches, and I can start to push the trees together and add a little pressure to the maybe first 3 or 4 centimeters of the trunk of what is going to become the trunk. And if this succeeds, oh yeah, I'm leaving this as a balance branch at the back, so just wanted to tell you that this one and this one are going to be in the back, so should not be included in the rest of the fusion. And then I have this one that I'd like to use maybe as a I'll manage to with this. So all this maybe, well, if I'm lucky, I can get to 5 to 6 centimeters. Is going to be the trunk now. So let's tie this together. Firmly, but not too heavy, you know. You don't want to cut off all the sap and things. And of course we still have gaps, which is completely normal in this stage. So I'm going to the bottom, trying to press the roots, the root base together. Just a little, and then up again to finish and find back my little piece of raffia here so I can make a knot. Like so, and cut the remaining parts. Okay, technically speaking, I could start wiring this thing, but I just think that I'm going to have a look and try to remove the biggest leaves. I'm not going to do any wiring, you know, but I'm going to cut back the biggest leaves so that every little plant gets a little sunlight, and later on this season, or maybe next spring, I will have to defoliate this whole thing, which for a ivy is not a big deal. And if you grow ivy, well, there's always going to be a moment when you have to defoliate them, because you cannot wire it if you don't. I am now trying to open up the whole top of this tree, which is of course something that I do not want in the future, because I want these trees to come together. But I think that this is the best way to give them all the light they need, and of course they will go back together when I will wire them. So now and then I'm just finding a big leaf that I still want to cut out, but there's not a lot left. And okay, so here we are. Okay, so to finish this video, I'd like to show you what I have in mind with this thing. Well, so first of all, the trunk goes this way. This is the foam part, of course. And then probably these two will come together and start to form the cascade. I will have to take a few of these in the top to make the informal upright part. I have a big branch here that can make a back, and a small one here that can also make the back. This one should be the counterbalance of the tree. And that's basically it. I think this looks very promising. Now I hope that everything survives, but if you have seen, like I did, how much roots they all had, well, I don't expect any catastrophes. So, cuttings of a ivy, something everyone can try. So, thank you for watching and see you next time.